What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Blind Fly Tie, where I, as a blind person, show you how to do your best to try to tie some flies when you can't see what you're doing. Today, my goal is to try to tie a Copper John style emerger, where we're going to be using some gray goose biot, brown copper, pretty thin copper, brown, well, this is copper, brown copper. What I just showed you before was this brown thread, still pretty thin. This otter fur, which would be used as our hackle, and brown turkey feather as our casing. We're going to start this by laying down our thread base. Oh, and our size 10 hook. I'm right-handed, so the eye of the hook's pointed towards the right, and I have extra thread in my left hand being used as kind of a guide for myself. And I prefer to wrap away from me, which basically means if you pretend the hook is in the middle of a clock, analog clock, not digital. I know some people are going to look, oh, middle here. It basically means I'm going clockwise. So over the hook, under, and repeat. Now I'm going to cinch this down by doing a couple wraps directly behind the eye, and then one more wrap behind that extended thread, and then come back around to try to cinch it in place. So what I'm going to do is do an open loop like that and lead that thread directly back up to the eye. One more example, open loop like that, lead the thread back up to the eye. Another example, open loop just like that, and then lead the thread and guide it back to the eye. I'm going to do about 2 wraps at a time. And my thread is about size 8 aught. So it will take a little bit longer than your average person, because I know some of these threads people are using are probably 6, just bigger. We'll just say bigger without trying to get too into it. That's 1, 2, 3 I'm doing right now. As I get closer to the bend of the hook, do 4 on that one. Now I'm definitely going to start doing 2, 1. We'll go at 1. One more. That's just about the bend of the hook. Is it? I'm just using my fingernail to kind of check. I'll do like 2 more little boom and a booms. That's good. I'm going to cut this instead of yanking it, just because I won't be able to see if there's any flare. So I hold the thread up, open my scissors, put the thread in the scissors, slide it down till I hit the hook, gentle snip, thread comes off. Step 1, done. Step 2, goose biots. Hold the goose biot stick like a frowny face. Stem to the right, I'll call that the stem where we're ripping the feather off. And we're going to place our thumb on top of the feathers, give it a bend, slide that thumb until a feather pops up kind of like a card stack. As we pull it off, we are still aware that this is frowny face based on our thumb position, and we want it to be smiley face. So we're going to do the quick flip. I'm going to turn this rotary vise, not a full 90 degrees because I'm pointing it at me right now. And I'm going to lay my goose biot tail down along the shank. Doing my best to not make a massively long biot tail. Instructions and stuff, normally people are like, yeah, it's about a gap. The tail should be as long as about a gap of whatever hook you're using, I think it should just not be as crazy long. I'm gonna do 2 pinch loops, 1, 2, trying to cinch it in place, and I'm just gonna check and make sure that's still laid out. So I'm gonna do another pinch loop, one more quick little pinch loop. Now I'm gonna do some open spirals leading up towards the eye of the hook to cinch down all that extra biot that's just hanging out there. A couple of more. Just gonna, my spool kind of came down a little bit. A couple of more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A few more, whatever. Tail might be a little longer than I would prefer, but we have this extra biot up in the beginning. So same process as the thread. Hold it straight up. Open the scissors, put it between the blades, give it a gentle snip as soon as I feel the hook. First tail is in. It's probably as long as the hook itself, but we'll call it, it gives it more life. That's what we'll just say. So I'm gonna rotate the vise in the opposite direction and repeat the process. Goose biot, pinch, grab, bend like a deck of cards, bloop. Do my best to grab only one singular biot, rip. Flip it into the smiley face. And now I'm gonna lay it down first, but then do my best to feel with the back of my thumb that the biot tails are as close to the same length as possible. So right now it feels a little short, still kind of short, but I don't want to push it just in case one ends up being longer than the other. And you know what? We'll try one more time to lay it down. Lay it down about there. Short, short. That's close enough. So I'm gonna pinch it and hold it really, really tight now because I really don't want this to move. Do a couple of pinch loops again to cinch it down. I'm still not gonna let go yet. And I'm gonna do some nice tight wraps as I head back down towards the bend of this hook, doing my very, very best to make sure these tails don't move and don't spin on me. So now for now, I'm just gonna double check it myself before I show you guys where exactly I am at with this. Couple more wraps just to try to get back to the bend of the hook. And now it seems a little bit like I might have wrapped a little too much, so I'm gonna undo one wrap first and then check. I'm actually gonna angle my hook a little bit so it sticks out better. The tails, I mean, kind of pop out a little more. Undo another wrap. Honestly, I'm gonna undo one more wrap. They are a little flared. They're a little flared. I'll probably leave it there. Let me straighten this back out for you guys. And that's where we're at. That's a decent flare. They're balanced enough to say that it's an even tail. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do a very quick little clinch knot. Not yet. Now what I'm gonna do is, because the next step is tying in our copper wire, I'm gonna do some loose-ish open spirals going up towards the eye of the hook. And I'm going to do whoa, that was weird. My whole bobbin just like dropped out of nowhere. One singular little clinch knot right behind the eye of the hook, with the hope that something like that, where my bobbin just dropped and I'm not trying to have thread snap or anything like that. You know, nothing too crazy is the hope. We're going to tie in our copper wire now. I'm going to loosen up this spool, let it kind of settle on the table a little instead of using my little arm. And I'm going to I'm going to give some excess copper wire just like that. The reason why I'm doing that is tying in something like a copper wire, I want to make sure I actually have it tied down and secure. So I'm going to do 2 very quick pinch loops. And I'm going to take the excess copper wire that you see there and then just try to fold it in on itself, hold it down, do 3 more quick pinch loops, and then I'm going to now start trying to wrap this thread to secure this copper wire. And I'm going to use the copper wire similar to the thread before as my lead, do a couple of wraps, and try to use that copper wire to pull any excess thread forward, doing my best to make some touching wraps. And now here the premise is still the same as far as my biots, right? I'm going to tie off, wrap as much as I can. Once I think I get close to the hook bend, I'm actually going to bring my copper wire forward and check these goose biots just to try to keep making sure they are still flared out nicely the way I want them to be. Which right now, they both are and are not. Kind of annoying. So I'm going to give them a quick little tug so that they're definitely flared out right now. Kind of like that. Just a quick little tug to also allow me to feel where they are and where that wire is. So now that I think I have my wire in a pretty good spot, I'm going to bring my thread loose, open wraps forward again, and I'll let it settle at the right behind the eye of the hook. I'm just going to pull it forward and kind of make this little overpass bridge, because as a blind person, I do not recommend you just start spinning your copper wire, because again, there's no guarantee you're going to make touching wraps. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 1 wrap over, come under that thread, and just try to come back as straight as possible to create your first little half loop. That, because copper wire is thicker than thread at the end of the day, it's a little stiffer. I'm going to use that as my backstop by trying to push the copper wire into itself. So open spiral kind of like that again. Gently slide this copper wire backwards until it basically comes in contact with itself, hoping to continuously make touching wraps just like that. And check my biot tail. 1 more example, quick, big open spiral like that, and then do a quick gentle slide, trying to guide and make sure that copper wire is making a touching wrap, just like that, and then still kind of check the biots. Okay, so now I'm going to try and make this go a little faster, best as I can. I do not count how many wraps it might actually take to do this with the copper wire or the thread, because at the end of the day, to be honest, it's not really going to be that consistent. You would think it would be, because math is math, numbers are numbers, they shouldn't lie, but it's not. It unfortunately just isn't. And it's mainly because of mistakes. Make a mistake here, make a mistake there, and if you're relying on counting, the next thing you know, everything is pretty bad. So you end up being worse off than you should be. And I'm just going to keep wrapping just like that. Just wrap and wrap and wrap. And I'm just about at the eye of the hook. We don't really need to go that far up. Not all the way anyway. And like I said before, because this wire is basically a thinnest thread, a little more gentle and pliable to work with, I'm going to do a clinch knot with the wire itself directly behind, well, not directly, but almost behind the eye of this hook here. And give it a quick little snip. Just pull it off of my finger. Done. I'm going to post check and make sure my biots didn't spin ridiculously, and we're okay. So just so you see the current state of things, this is what we're working with. My biots have flared. Hopefully my copper wire is all in touching wraps. Hopefully. And now our next step is we're going to tie in our turkey feather. Turkey feathers as our casing. As you can see, turkey feather is just a bunch of all these little feathers, all kind of stuck together. Kind of stuck together, to be specific. How to not go crazy with this as a blind person is, I use some clear nail polish. So I grab some clear nail polish and I'm going to brush a bunch of clear nail polish on these feathers. And I'm doing that to make sure even more that when I cut them and pinch them down, they stay together. Maybe I lose one or so. Give it a quick blow. That'll dry. But maybe losing one feather is way better than cutting a piece of this turkey feather and then just having a complete crazy situation. So I'm just giving it a quick blow dry. So it's clear nail polish, so it's not really going to show. It's not that big a deal. I just had some miscellaneous. All right. And that way, all these feathers can stay together even easier for me. Now I have to figure out my shell casing. I'm going to end up cutting, I'm going to use my thumb as a measure. And I would say I'm going to cut about, maybe, what is that, like a third of my thumb? I'm going to cut a third of my thumb off. Who needs it? So get those scissors, give it a snippy doodah, and there we go. Our turkey feather all collected together. Not flaring, not nothing. All right, so I'm going to keep my hook straight. I'm going to place this feather on the flat part of the hook just like that. And just like everything else, first I'm going to make sure it's kind of in the right spot. Okay. And I'm going to do a quick little pinch loop and a second pinch loop. Give it a tug to cinch it. a third pinch loop for sanity, a fourth because of insanity, and then I'm going to start doing some wraps about a third-ish so back down the hook shank itself. It's probably around there. I'm going to straighten this hook out too, actually, just so I'm not all crooked. I'm already blind and live crooked. I don't need to make it more blind and more crooked. I'm just going to actually see. I'm just going to grab my turkey feather, pretend like I'm going to make the shell casing really quickly, just to kind of see how far I tied this down. Give it a tug forward, give it a tug forward, and that seems to be pretty okay. Maybe ended up a little more than a third, but there we go. We want just about tied in just about that much, just to give you guys a look. See, we're kind of looking at that much. We want to make sure the copper wire shows because it is just a casing. And right now I'm going to double check my biots again because I'm not sure if I spun them by accident. And I did a smidgens, but they're actually pretty solid. All right, I'm going to straighten that out again. So turkey feather is tied in. Grah. All right. Now is honestly more of the tricky part that we're kind of having to deal with here. Tying in this hackle. Turkey hackle, goose hackle, this hackle, that hackle, rooster hackle, otter hackle, whatever, it's the hackle. Again, this is currently otter hackle. And a piece of otter hackle came right off. Didn't even need to, oh no, I lost it. Did I find it? Yeah. I dropped it and it landed right on my arm and I picked it up again. I'm gonna put it in my mouth like a cigar real quick while I put this away. Because, you know, boys are weird. We do weird things. So, hackle has a frowny face and a smiley face as well. We're going to tie this in frowny face. To the best of my knowledge so far, frowny face is the smartest of the two choices when you're trying to tie in hackle and you want it to flare because you're wrapping it. So we're going to rip off some of this spare hackle that's at the base, the stem, and we're going to tie it in stem, thick stem pointing towards the eye first. I'm just going to do my best to try to really lay it on flat again. I'm going to have a little extra kind of sitting on the top. Pinch loop, well, that wasn't really a pinch loop, but you get the point. Couple of two loose wraps. Doing my best to at least get it to be down. I'm going to flip up the tip of that hackle a little bit, come underneath it, do another wrap on top. And now that I have that at least tied in place, doing my best to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Some of these tight, as close to touching wraps as I can get. Down, hopefully about a third of this hook. And I'm going to come right back up towards the eye. And once again, I am going to do a quick little clinch, not right behind that eye of the hook, hoping that I don't cut this thread. There's a little bit of spare right there of that little stem, so I'm going to do my best like a little barber. Snip, 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 whatever. And this currently is how this fly is looking right now with the hackle tied in on top. This is the moment where I would say, instead of grabbing hackle pliers, this is where a blind person's best friend would be to spin the vise. So we're going to do our best to hold. You know what? I don't actually think. I bet I didn't tie this all the way down. So I'm going to do some more wraps going towards the bend of the hook. But it's still kind of really, actually. So I'm going to use my thumb, my pointer finger as a guide. Once I hit that pointer finger, I'm like, that's a third. And then again, wrap it up. Do one more clinch knot, just again to kind of just ensure that that's not going anywhere. So again, I don't recommend hackle pliers in this case because we need to be hands-on as much as possible. We're going to try to pinch the top of this hackle and do some flaring ourselves by sliding our thumb down the back of the spine of this feather or fur, whatever the hell otters have. I'm going to use my ring finger on the eye of the hook and unlock this rotary vise. And I'm going to do my best to, at a very slight angle forward, what I'm hoping is a slight angle forward, spin this vise. I'm going to use this handle, spin it kind of towards me, which would end up being counterclockwise if you're looking at this vise in the center of a clock. And my hope is that that's the correct direction to make this hackle flare out. 1, 2, 3, 4 wraps. Whoops, the hackle spun backwards by accident. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 wraps. Oh, and I dropped it. That's going to happen. You'd still say, oh, use the hackle pliers. Still, no hackle pliers because you would still end up having more of a problem than anything. Because at least this way I know I dropped it. Let me see if, and I'm going to use the tips of my fingers to see if I feel any good flare of this hackle. It seems like it's flaring out, but you have to be very gentle and do your best to be like super aware. I'm going to flip it upside down, try to lock it, and do my best to not lose that very small tip of hackle I'm holding. I'm going to lay thread down gently, smoothly, but as fast as I can to lock it in place, just in case my sweaty, oily fingers losing grip on this thing. 1, 2. A third one right there. Give it a quick cinch. And now I'm going to snip off this extra before I lose it. Toss it. And one more time, give it that clinch knot. All right, I'm going to flip this back up straight. I'm just also checking right now just to make sure the eye of the hook is still, it's not really being crowded yet. No, okay, I still have the hook, the eye of the hook exposed. I just used a needle, shoved it in there. I was getting a little worried that I might have covered it. So hopefully this is flared out. Gently feeling it, it kind of feels flared out. Don't know how perfect it looks, but I'm trying. We try. As long as it fishes, it's fine. Now we're going to collect this turkey fur feather, which is going to be our shell casing. Pull it up and wrap and lay it forward over our currently wrapped hackle. I'm going to lay it down just like that. And I have a little too much thread hanging out. It kind of unraveled a little. So I'm just raveling it up a little. And I'm going to do a quick pinch, loop, move my finger out the way just a little bit to kind of be able to come under. Yeah. One pinch. Second pinch. And a third pinch. And then before I officially cut this, I'm going to let that turkey feather stick up, actually get a decent amount of thread, so I can make a big loop, use that turkey feather as a guide for myself to do one more little clinch knot right there, let it drop, got it, bang. And now we're going to snip off this extra. Snip. That was kind of a messy snip. There's a little extra barbershop snip, 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 you know. Was it the last OGs like, oh, my son is clippers, he's a master with the clippers. Anyway. Now we're gonna whip finish this. If I can find my whip finish tool. Here it is. Hold it in my right hand, thread in my left hand. I'm gonna catch the hook, catch the thread with that hook part, wrap it around the bend of that little bump on the whip finish tool, create my right triangle, and pin that thread to the side of the hook in line with the thread itself. Do my 1, 2, 3, 4 wraps, pull it through. Grr. What happened? You know, it's still there. We're just going to call that an epic fail. 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. Back to the beginning. Let's try that one more time because for some reason that just went crazy. So, make my right triangle, catch it. Jesus Christ. Catch it, loop the thread, make my right triangle, pinch, 1, 2, 3, come back around, lay that thread on there, close it up. Crowded the eye a little bit, but you know, that's an accident that happened because I was actually aiming to put it on top of itself, not by the eye. So I'm just sticking that in there, that needle in the eye again, while I try to shove that thread away from the eye of the hook. Because if there's thread on there, how am I gonna get it on the line? You know. Sure. Okay. I'm gonna do one knot there. Give it a snip. Boop. We're gonna UV resin this to really seal it up and secure it. So My UV resin comes like a little squeeze bottle. I'm gonna use my thumb, my fingers, give it a nice squeeze. I am intentionally kind of covering the eye of the hook because I want to ensure that I cover that thread. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to take my needle again, put it into the eye of that hook, just like that, to keep the opening open as we blast it with the light and let everything harden. I did completely forget to double check with my biots to make sure they were straight before doing this. Flared, but oops. It's still fishable. I guarantee it's still fishable. Blasting it, blasting it, blasting it. 10, 15, 30 seconds. It kind of just depends for some reason. I don't know what's up with that, but it should be pretty good. Tug. And there we have our final product. I'm going to angle this a little bit. I'm going to angle it a little more. All right, nice. Okay, our biots are still really flared. So you can see this final product. I'm going to do some circles. Biots are flared. Copper wire should be exposed. The turkey feather shell casing should be flipped over. The hope is that our hackle is sticking out like wiggly little legs. And that's our copper John style emerger, tied together by a blind guy. Nowhere near the worst, nowhere near the best, but fishable, will catch, and again, is possible for a blind person to do. So thanks again for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Write any comments you think that might help. Any flies you think that I should attempt to try. Tips or tricks you might be aware of if you've encountered a blind person tying flies before, or fly fishing technique. And share these videos. All right, thanks again, and hope everyone has a great day.